I'm Doug Jones, and you have discovered Beyond Trek Podcast.
A red alert.
I need a turtleneck like the one you've got, Watney. Do you think sheer would look good on me? I mean, yours looks a little bright, or just, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think I could.
It's winter.
You could rock it.
I could rock it. You think I could?
Oh yeah,
sure. I'll send you the link.
Oh, okay.
Check it out.
Send me the link for that. I might have to check that out. And Renzo, what's that shirt? Captain Proton. Why does that sound familiar? But
it's from Voyager. It's the thing
that is from Voyager. Okay.
The thing that Paris was obsessed with.
Yes, I was thinking about. Wasn't there this TV show called Captain Photon or something like that? Remember Photon, the game you ran around and shooting people with your light gun?
Yeah, like what's it a play on? It's like just a
Flash
play
Gordon.
on like Flash Gordon. Yeah, like original science fiction.
Yeah.
Dag's muted as usual.
Dag's muted. That's our tradition.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah, that's our new theme song. Speaking of which, welcome to Beyond Trek Podcast. We're so glad you're here with us today. I'm Watney.
I'm Big J.
Renzo.
And I'm Dag, and today is November 21st, 2020. We are going to go over Discovery Episode 6, Scavengers. So if you haven't seen it yet, here's your spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. It's too late to turn back now. You're in this for the long run.
Locked and loaded.
Yeah, that's a great line. I love that line. That's from Insurrection. And I want to give a quick shout out to Alexander Siddig. It is his birthday today.
Ooh, happy birthday.
If you're just listening and you're not sure who that is Dr. Julian Bashir from Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Now,
you should probably say his full name, though, since it is his birthday.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, go ahead. And I believe there's...
Give him the red carpet.
Yes. Treatment. His full name's like a sentence long.
Oh, it's long.
Well,
it's long. Oh my, I don't want to do the full name though.
Well,
because he might have legally changed it because everybody's been calling him Alexander.
He did.
For the last 20 years.
For the first couple scenes. For the first couple scenes of DS9, he went by Siddig El Fadil.
Oh, really?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, he's Sudanese born.
Mm-hmm.
And he was initially, as Jay said, credited as Siddig El Fadil, but his full name is, I'm going to butcher this, I'm so sorry, Siddig El Tahir El Fadil El Siddig Abdurrahman Mohammed Ahmed Abdel Karim El Mahdi.
Excellent. We did it justice, I believe.
I think it was just lazy for them to not put that entire thing on the title card during the credits of DS9. Like, come on. You're getting paid to do this.
It's such an epic name.
It truly is.
But I get stage names, Watney.
Yeah. I don't recall.
No, that's my real name, listeners, by the way. That's
right.
My real name.
Some other fans might more appreciate his more recent stuff. He was Doran Martell in Game of Thrones. He also was in Reign of Fire, which is a really cool movie that I liked back in 2000 with Mr. All Right himself, Matthew McConaughey.
I feel like once you've been on Trek, that's it. You've been on Trek.
You've made
pretty much.
You've made it. Go ahead and just do whatever other fun shit you want to do because you've been on Star Trek. So,
well, the only connection this episode has to Deep Space Nine is the mention of self-sealing stem bolts. So
yeah.
Let's
get into it. So this is, like we said, season 3, episode 6, Scavengers of Star Trek Discovery. Scene 1, we open up on a starbase with Saru going over all of the cool updates that Discovery has gotten now that they've jumped ahead. So they basically reworked all of the tech in the bridge, in engineering, pretty much over the whole ship. They've detached the nacelles, which is I want to see blowing to me. Maybe it's because I'm a 21st century peasant, but I just am how does that work? I don't know.
Well, they even told us why they did it. They did it for extra maneuverability, and it looks like it was done with programmable matter, so they can probably be reintegrated kind of like on the fly.
Yeah.
But why even do so?
Yeah, if you like need to, we don't need maneuverability. Let's attach the nacelles and fucking get out of here or something. Like it could be like something like that.
One of the really cool speculations that I've seen on Daystrom Institute is that due to the burn and the desire to never have that happen again, as decimating as it was, they actually moved the warp cores into the nacelles so that if the dilithium ever became unstable like that again, it would just take out a nacelle and not the entire ship.
Well, but isn't the blast radius of a matter-antimatter interaction still going, still going to get them? Those nacelles aren't far enough to where if that kind of reaction happens that they're going to be okay. That's a pretty big radius, especially when you have two happening on each side.
Well, okay, we know that blasts can be contained, like in season 2 of Discovery, where Pike and oh my God, what's her name? The woman admiral.
Yeah,
Admiral Cornwell.
Yeah. So like they had was it a quantum torpedo?
No, just a torpedo.
Just a torpedo, just stuck in the hull, going to detonate. Yep. And Pike just closed a fucking door and the thing exploded and it was fine. Like
as long as there's a door on the nacelle that's closed,
yes,
we're gonna be fine.
That's what I'm saying. Just make a whole nacelle of doors and then put the warp core in that, and then we should be good. And you can go ahead and hire me, ship designers.
I just want to recommend that we make the doors out of the same material we make the black boxes out of.
Right.
I just want to remind you guys, the black box that we saw this episode was not the first one that we've seen. We actually saw one in episode 3 as well. That was the thing that was being handed to Burnham in that like opening montage of like Burnham's year abroad or whatever. So we have seen them now a couple times.
That's what she was negotiating for before she found. Okay, that's really a great nugget. Thank you. Because I was like, oh, this is coming out of nowhere, but it's really not. I'm just not paying close enough attention, which is usually how it works. So Saru is in the kind of like command center with the other captains. Vance says like, hey, welcome. Let's get to business. Riling 7 needs shields. Yeah, we'll go give him some shade. They basically are conducting an administrative meeting where they're saying, hey, here's all these planets that have issues. And they're going to send all these ships out to go take care of these problems. And these are like problems that can wait. They're not urgent issues, but Saru seems to think, well, we'll just go do it all in one day. But that's not like how it's going to work. And Vance knows that they need to be there. So there's like a serious issue that could happen on Argeth, which is on yellow alert. The Emerald Chain's making moves there or something like that. We know the Emerald Chain is it's Orions and Andorians?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's Orions and Andorian like crime syndicate, basically.
I like the meeting.
It's another version of the Orion syndicate.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you there, Wani. I like this morning huddle that they had, the meeting of captains, because in all of Star Trek, I always wondered, what is that process behind the scenes for getting that mission? I mean, is it, in TNG, is Picard just picking stuff to go do? Is there like a news bulletin? Are there assignments that are coming from Starfleet Command? What are they, like, just that organizational part of, what is this? Yeah, what is this in the A to B and all that? So that was good that they kind of had their list of, here's what needs to be done today, and here's who needs to do what, and that's how it happens. Just minor little thing I thought was.
I agree with you. I think it's pretty cool to see it in action, right? But I don't think this is how it would have worked in Picard's day, Sisko's day, Janeway as a captain in the UFP's day. Like they would have received orders from an Admiralty with like 30 tiers of bureaucracy, and everything would have been vetted and pre-checked and planned. This was just like, these are the 7 ships that we have. So these are the 7 tasks we can do today. Let's prioritize 7 and send people out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like you can talk through subspace and warp in the past. Can't do that now. So everyone needs to be together to get these orders. It's like a lot more primitive than I think even in the previous timeline, because you have to get everyone physically together. I mean, sure, you can like communicate like locally, But you can't send like a message to Picard like about, oh, there's a Borg cube coming like way far away. And then they can't get there like that. It's not the same thing anymore. So they all have to be like kind of together.
Well, the nice thing is it's more...
I'm so grateful for the three of you being here, deconstructing this scene, because I've been so like, I don't know, like wiped out by work. I saw this as like, oh, it's a morning stand-up. Okay.
It's
and
a
I just sort of tuned
period,
out.
Yes.
I was just like,
So also, if you're listening to us on anchor.fm or Spotify, however you listen to us, you can watch us. We have a YouTube. So check us out there because we have screenshots from the episode that we look through, and it's a lot more visual. You can watch us.
Some of us are in uniform.
Yes.
Or have appropriate shirts. No, so the one thing
turtleneck is always an appropriate shirt.
I just wanted to say, I thought it was really neat that they showed a captain of a different alien or a different race than just a human.
Yes,
right? But it was only the one. Everybody else seemed quite
the exception.
I'm gonna actually here.
Go ahead.
I don't know if this particular vendor has a screenshot of it. But there is a person standing next to Saru in the opening scene. If you're checking it out,
there she is. You're right.
Yeah.
The person next to Saru is Cardassian. We have a Cardassian
Is that
captain.
what that is?
What the
Yes.
fuck?
Love it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I didn't catch that the first time.
And also there's another one. So two people to the right of Saru is another
It's
alien.
a Saurian.
1, 2, 3,
And
4,
then-
and 4 people from the right of him around. There's a big head guy.
So
What is
I'll
that one?
I'll just, if you guys can see my cursor right here, we've got an Osnulan. We also have another Osnulan on Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Those
This
are the new
person
ones from
here
Discovery.
looks like Linus. So I'm going to say this person is Saurian.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our Cardassian. And then behind this guy over here on the left, we see these 3 little wings sticking out. We've seen this race twice before in Discovery in the 32nd century. One on the planet where Burnham is bargaining for the black box, and another time in the sick bay in, I think, the last episode. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're right.
We've seen this species before. They don't have a name yet.
Interesting then that since in the scene when the captains just chit-chatting to each other or being assigned missions, they didn't focus on any of the alien captains other than the Osnulan.
Well, that might have just been what made it on screen.
Sure. Oh, that's fair. And you can just write it off as being like, those are the ships that had missions today, right? Like they might get something tomorrow.
Right.
Cool. I'm glad that you caught this though.
It's cool. You know, we're like, hey, we need you to sit in this chair for 6 hours while we apply Cardassian makeup, and you're going to be on screen for about 3 seconds.
And that's how it is. Those are the breaks.
Yeah. I mean, it worked out for Doug Jones. So I'll just say that.
That guy.
Surely they have some kind of overlay or something that they put on him. That's not all just makeup, you know, like it is technically makeup, but surely it's like some kind of mask or something that they then like seamlessly blend in. Like that's a lot of makeup all the time.
They're thick pieces of paneling that get glued. And then they put like a mesh in between them so that they can move without really exposing parts of his face. And then there's digital touch up.
Okay, cool.
Why didn't they do digital touch up for him too? That's cool. I guess that makes sense.
Just a little bit.
Saru is like totally like normal looking to me now. I don't know. I just have seen him so much. It's like, yeah, you're an alien.
When I see Doug Jones' face, I'm like, there's something not quite right about this.
you have your nostrils are too close together.
All right,
Doug, we love you.
Let's keep going. So we learned that Osira and the chain are getting heated in the area of Argath. So Argath's on yellow alert. Discovery needs to be on call in case shit goes down. And so Discovery gets to stay, even though they can do all of the shit in like a little bit of time.
Well, here's where it matters that Discovery got upgrades, because sending a ship from 900 years ago to fight into combat with modern ships seems like a really dumb idea. So they got the upgrades. They're a little bit more up to date, and now they can maybe hold their own.
Let's take a second to spotlight some of those upgrades if we can.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
I'll just bullet point them really. We've got the detached nacelles, some of the support struts from the inner saucer section and the outer saucer section have been removed. So it's just the one main structure from the back. Discovery is now the 1031A. which makes sense if you take into account the idea that Discovery was reported destroyed. The name may have been decommissioned, and in order to recommission the name, they had to iterate it. So Discovery gets an A.
So
it also helps to disguise its temporal origins, so that existing is not a crime. So insofar as we think about it now.
Okay. All right.
Renzo, the image that you have behind you, she's perfect for Tron. She's got that outlay. The deflector dish is now a hexagon instead of a circle.
Mm-hmm.
The nacelles got the nice little like racing stripes going on there. And then, of course, as Watney and Renzo were saying about the upgrades being necessary, she's probably got better phasers, quantum torpedoes. If we have better than quantum, that would be great. But the last time we were on Earth, they were firing quantum torpedoes at us. So
yes.
And I feel like the Aztecing has even got an update here. If you're not familiar with the term Aztecing, it's just the Starfleet issue texturization of each of the ships, the sort of repetitive dark light color. Exactly the whole pattern. So
the upgrades are real nice.
She looks so
like
good.
Yeah, they modernized Discovery really well.
Stamets doesn't like it though. They moved something and the aesthetics are just off for him now. So
you can get over it, special boy Stamets, please. Like, it looks so good now. And yeah, like Renzo made a great point that we saw them being woefully out like gunned.
Mm-hmm.
On the Earth episode. And so, which if I was like wanting to rebuild the Federation, the first thing I'd do is like go to Earth and be like, hey, you guys want back in? You want back in? And then we like put our station there like we always had, and the Presidium is still there. Anyway, so yeah, they great point about the weapons. Like, they can't really go and hold their own anywhere without updated weapons and more teeth. So really cool that we got the upgrades. And once again, Discovery is OP. So
still waiting on that history lesson. I need my 930 years of history. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I think we'll get little bits here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just fill in the timeline for sure.
Yep.
So the crew also gets upgrades. We switch over to Discovery, and it's Commander Willa. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Lieutenant Willa.
Lieutenant Willa, who is the chief of security on the starbase. Is going through the crew and kind of training them, I would say, on their new upgrades, their badges. So the badges now are holopads, communicators, tricorders, and personal transporters.
All in one. It's great.
All in one. I'm like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I'd like 3, please.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And
why doesn't everyone just keep an extra one on them in case we have to like get out of like a sticky situation, just like on the planet later? That was my thought. It's like, you don't have to beam someone up. They can just literally, everyone can teleport now.
That begs the question, how do you just inform the teleporter where you wish to go? Like,
well, I think Linus is having trouble with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's hilarious that happened, because when they're going through all this and seeing the reactions of the crew to all these new toys, it's just, they are in awe about this stuff. And when we talked about that, they also worked as personal transporters, I started thinking, okay, well, that's going to be kind of odd, because what if you start popping up in the wrong places or whatever? And it's great that they did exactly what everyone's thinking. And Linus, he just pops into the bridge suddenly. Like, oh, this
in the captain's chair, right?
This isn't the cafeteria. Yeah.
Yeah. So Detmer's struggling a bit, and honestly, like, I get that they upgraded the ship, but they're not giving them any time to like relearn all of these critical systems that they went through Starfleet Academy to be like bridge officers for.
Yes.
And it's like completely new. It's basically it's magic now, because the technology is so advanced that it looks like magic.
Yes.
To be fair though, they did point out though that the UIs, you don't have to adjust to anything. It's been designed to look like your old stuff, and it'll adjust to you. So it's smart enough that it learns how you like to find things. And, they put work into making it accommodations for like people displaced from 900 years ago.
Imagine looks unimpressed.
I totally get it. And with the sphere's help, the sphere knows the crew. It cares about the crew. So it's probably like helping them out here and there. And it's smart enough to do it at once for all of them.
I'm curious to see what the sphere is going to do with the new upgrades too.
Yes, I'm like, I really want more of the sphere. Like we got a little bit of a nugget. We got
starships in disguise.
Nuggets.
Right?
Yeah. Here's what happened. What happened was they upgraded their computer from Windows XP to Windows 10, and they're trying to figure out where their bookmarks went and all of that.
Now imagine this though. Imagine having this kind of like personalized UI when we sit down to podcast. It's just like boom, everything's dialed in.
Interesting.
It just intuits your preference.
Talks for you.
But my preference might change. So yeah, Detmer is doubtful, but it's very adaptive.
Reese's like reaction to this was great. Yeah.
And while Saru is on the bridge, apparently Nielsen is like third in command or something. Did you guys pick that up?
Yes, that's right.
As Book's ship appears, she is basically like third in command, which I thought was pretty dope to give her that kind of role. That's pretty awesome. We get a transmission from a ship coming into the like snow globe, and as it turns out, it's Book's ship, but Book is not on it, so Grudge is captaining.
Captain Grudge.
Train your cat. When somebody pushes the button, or when the green button flashes, tap the green button.
You know what I thought? What my dumbass thought in this scene? I thought that the cat piloted the ship back, because the cat and the interface are advanced enough to do that. It's silly.
The UI's intuitive to the cat.
Don't rule that out, Big J. It might be true next episode.
And that's how we
like
discovered that everything is
kitties. Do you think that Grudge is a dem key?
I'm
kidding. I'm kidding.
I would be the only one who got that joke, and it's a good
true.
joke. I was actually thinking that Grudge would be like Isis from Cat's Paw.
Yes.
If you saw the TOS original series episode,
idea.
Isis was a cat who could shapeshift into a humanoid form, but the alien overall was some kind of weird little alien thing that died when Kirk disrupted the illusion. Good job,
That would
Kirk.
be quite the callback. For sure.
No, I want Grudge to just be a cat. Just a cat, because cats in themselves are enough. It's like freaking cats just doing what cats do. That's good for me.
Right, but it's Star Trek.
So I like the inclusion of like a show pet, the same way we had Porthos.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to have like an animal that everybody loves. So I saw Grudge. I was like, kitty.
I need to correct
Norwegian
myself.
forest cat. Is that what Grudge is?
Pretty sure.
It's
I need
huge.
to correct myself. Isis was not from Cat's Paw. Isis was from
Gary
Assignment
Seven?
Earth,
Oh, that's
and
what
was
it is.
Gary Seven's companion, who was a shapeshifter that was also a cat. So we have precedent in TOS to bring back cat shapeshifters.
But there was another cat.
Not in my Star Trek.
There was another one, because Spock was petting a cat. Like, everyone's seen that little video or gif.
I don't think that cat was a shapeshifter, though.
No, I don't think
That was just your regular cat, Big J,
okay.
that you want.
We have shapeshifter
Right,
cats, and Cations. Take your pick.
Yeah. So Cat shows up and they're like, what the fuck? Burnham gets back. Burnham's aboard. And we get a message from Book, like an auto message about there being the black box. He found it, but he's in trouble. He's on Hun Hao. So Burnham already has like a plan, and she basically expects her to just greenlight this. But you can tell that as soon as he like informs her that that's not happening because they're on call, you can tell that in her, like, her whole demeanor is like, well, I'm about to fucking betray him.
Yes.
Because she knows that she's going to do what she thinks is right. And now she's been away from Starfleet for a year, and she's not really the bond of like authority isn't as strong with her anymore. So she knows she's going to just totally she's going to basically ruin her friendship with him.
Like it was very strong before.
I think Saru realized that too, though.
I think Saru would be foolish to not think in the back of his mind that she's going to do the thing anyway.
Well, he does talk about that later with Tilly.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
You would think that if that was the case, then they would kind of
Well, it's not that. It wasn't one of those I have to say this thing, but I'm going to give you the body language and the eyes as if I want you to do the opposite. Right. It's not the wink and the nod.
It's a pure disagreement on policy. Totally get it.
Yes.
But I feel like they've broken the rules together before. And so, Saru is very upstanding. He's the kind of guy that's in my opinion, gonna do what he thinks is right, regardless of protocol. He's gonna lean on protocol, but he's kind of guy from Lower Decks.
Boimler?
Boimler.
Yeah, Boimler, the by the book guy, and the
I can't believe
Mariner who's well, and so there's a difference between when you're telling someone not to do something, but you're saying it just because you have to say it, and you're actually telling them to do the opposite. The difference between that and telling someone not to do something, you really mean it. But in the back of your mind, well, this person's going to go and do the opposite anyway. Those are two different things. And the way that Saru was presenting it was he really meant it, but he knew that she was probably going to do whatever anyway, which is something that the Admiral in Star Trek 3 didn't catch with Kirk.
Yeah.
And they're having the little meeting in the lunchroom, and excuse me, the Admiral's telling Kirk not to do it. He's going to destroy himself. Jim, do you understand? And there's Kirk's just kind of, you can see the wheels going. He's just looking, and then suddenly he changes his mood. Is yeah, you're right.
What's the word, Admiral?
Yeah.
The word is no.
I feel like
Starfleet's
really lucky to have someone like Burnham who they just don't realize it.
They
I guess
are.
how lucky they are to have her. But just I guess moving forward. So she asks Georgiou for help, who obviously accepts because she likes off the books unsanctioned shit.
Georgiou has the best lines of this season.
Oh my!
You had me at unsanctioned mission, man.
They have a really good conversation aboard book ship too.
Agreed.
I like.
Yeah, and this is a great episode for a B plot.
Yeah,
you're right.
But we didn't get a B plot. Because every time we go back to the Discovery, they're just in their holding pattern. There's no ongoing B plot other than maybe Adira and Stamets. That's almost like a D plot, honestly, because there's no this. It's not there's it's just a piece of them as characters. It's not necessarily a plot,
The B plot was not having a plot. That's what the B plot was.
Yeah. The B plot was let's give some slice of life moments.
Yes. The B plot was not having a B plot.
Yeah. So Georgiou accepts, of course. Then we hit our credits, our title sequence. After that, we switch over to Book's ship, where apparently they just fucking left. Georgiou and Burnham kind of banter here. Georgiou thinks that Burnham's in love with Book.
The Blob Whisperer.
The Blob is
Grudge, and Book is the Blob Whisperer.
Oh, yeah, because
Georgiou seems like a cat person, though.
Well, Burnham misunderstood it at first. She thought that Blob Whisperer meant the transforms, but transforms aren't blobs. I meant the cat, right? The writing between these two is flawless.
Yeah. The new showrunner has definitely injected an amount of humor into this show that was observably lacking in the last two seasons.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's what it was. I could not put my finger on it for the longest time as to that. And now you said it, you're right. It was so lacking of any kind of humor that's what it was. Okay. So that's why this season seems so much fun and so humorous. And it's not because there's a lot of it, is that there was more than the near zero.
It just exists.
Right. And now it exists.
Big J, think about how much we enjoyed watching Lower Decks, right? Lower Decks is granted silly. It is actually funny and fun, right? It's not taking itself too seriously most of the time. But that kind of like injection of humor happens in Star Trek, and it has happened in the past for every show, right? Like you've got ridiculous scenes like Spock without a brain. That's a whole episode, and they walk around like an automaton. It's laughable. Right? Or they have scenes where crew members become salamanders. That wasn't done in seriousness. That was done with some jest to it, right? Like Star Trek has a sense of humor. When you try to take it seriously, that one has crossed the line. But
don't go there, please.
Point is, Star Trek has always had a sense of humor. So trying to be super serial about it just ends up turning people off.
If you're listening to this on any of your podcast outlets or you're watching us on YouTube, head over to the YouTube channel and leave us some comments. What are your favorite silly moments that predate Discovery? TOS, the animated series, moments in the original series movies, the TNG movies, the New Trek movies, TNG DS9 Voyager, Enterprise. Bring us your silly moments. And we can guarantee you that Discovery is not jumping the shark with these moments, because they have existed throughout Trek, and part of it is integral to Star Trek.
Right. I don't remember laughing once during season 1, and not even a chuckle or a snort. Season 2, I'm sure I did. I think I did, but I couldn't. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, season 3 for sure. So that's the thing. Is this is not new. It's been in Trek.
Episode alone elicited several chuckles from me.
Oh God, yes, yeah.
So the next scene that we have in our list, in particular, I was cracking up the whole time. Tilly trying to negotiate with Grudge out from under the bed. Fantastic, loved it.
I wanna go back real quick to the previous scene, because we didn't cover off on them entering the graveyard. Which that's the background I have currently. Is they basically get out of warp. And also Georgiou is having like PTSD during the moments after she jokes around with Burnham as they kind of enter. And we are showing screen grabs, which, whoa, that's a lot of grape jelly. Holy shit, that's like crazy blood.
Why suddenly is she having these trigger attacks?
She'll tell us later.
We'll find out, but I do like the theory we came up with in our previous episode, that the space, and I think this was Dag's idea, but like the space between the mirror universe and our universe is expanding, and with that is the subatomic chimeric strain of protein in her DNA. And so there's like a lot of separation going on. There could be like some actual physical things happening, because we know that there hasn't been a crossing in like 500 years.
But why would that cause flashbacks? Why would that cause her to have flashbacks?
Because she's gaining a conscience.
Space magic. I don't fucking know, because we need something reason.
I think it's equally likely that Section 31 bro from the previous episode like triggered something in her subconscious without her ever having a clue. This is just how this is how they train her, or they recruit her this way.
This is how they make her the Manchurian candidate.
Yeah, if you can blink away a hologram, you can tap into someone's noodle easy.
Yeah, you're held back.
Does anybody else find themselves like walking around looking at people going,
no, Dad, it's just blinking at people?
Mostly because I just don't look at people.
I just don't know their frequency. I don't know the frequency to flip them off.
We've just described social awkwardness in terms of technomancy. I just don't know your frequency, man.
One thing I did want to point out about the shipyard, or the arrival at the scavenger planet, was a lot of the wrecks that we see in orbit. In fact, almost all the wrecks we see in orbit are ships from Discovery seasons 1 and 2 They're only ships that came from the Discovery. We don't see anything from basically anywhere else.
How can you determine that with all these pieces?
With one except, I'm good at this. With one exception, I sat there in front of this picture and was like, circle, Cardenas class, circle, Nimitz class.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm bad. There is a Miranda class though, and that's not something that we'd seen in Discovery, and that's a nice thing to at least include because it's from the right era. If all these ships are 22 or 22nd century wrecks, so I like that bit.
No, they're not. They were supposed to be.
It happened
Rex.
150 years prior to the current day.
This was supposed to be a graveyard of ships that suffered the burn. These are not supposed to be old ships. They're supposed to be 32nd century ships. That's why I'm thrown off as to why they're showing.
There's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Burnham does say that this graveyard is supposed to be like many other graveyards that she's seen that existed after the burn. So yeah, I did get the sense that these are supposed to be 31st century or newer starships. But when they do go down to the scavenger yard, they're saying that Osira is super into 23rd and 24th century relics, which would explain why some of those ships that are just hanging out above the grave of the scavenger yard have that.
Oh, okay. So that's why she has all this shit. I just missed the part that she's like.
I totally
really
think Osira's a time traveler now.
She's gonna love these people.
That's a cool point, Dag. I hadn't thought about that one. Osira totally could be somebody who's like just ignored the Temporal Prem Directive or whatever.
Yep. Why is she looking for 24th century relics? They're 700 years old.
Collector, antiques. I don't know. Some people just like,
because even though we're 900, almost 1,000 years in the future, we're still obsessed with the previous timeline.
Yeah.
Listen,
so I'm
we're
waiting
kind of
for
obsessed with the future timeline, so it's different for us.
I need my relics from 1420, if that's okay.
Yeah, we got some museums that we can go check out. Yeah. So Georgiou bargains with Mr. Dumbass, and he basically is like, get out of my orbit, and she basically steps on his neck, which I loved. I love her.
Calls him a meat sack.
Yeah.
Just devours him.
she's like, I don't care about your eyes unless they're dangling on my belt.
Yeah.
It's like, and then at one point,
Mom.
like, and then at one point, he's like, form a sentence is what Georgiou says. She just snaps at him.
Yeah.
He's like, wow, this.
And she totally convinces like them to let them down there because of all their fucking dilithium. And Burnham manages to reverse engineer Grudge's receiver to find Book in order to find Book. So that's a Burnham moment for sure. We cut over to Tilly's quarters, Tilly and Burnham's quarters. And Grudge is hanging out in there, and they kind of grapple.
Wait. Do they still have shared quarters? I thought Burnham had her own quarters now. I think this might just be Tilly, because Grudge had to be taken care of by someone, so Burnham shoved him into Tilly's room.
Well, Tilly seemed like the best suited to take care of a cat out of anyone.
But Tilly's the only one that wouldn't just outright say no.
There's like another bed.
That just may be the quarters that she's assigned, and they haven't gotten around to giving her bigger quarters because they have a third of the crew they used to. I don't know, but Burnham definitely has her own quarters.
Put the beds together then, and make a bigger bed. That's what I don't know. First thing.
Well, here's the thing though: between your named characters, who are you going to use? The only other option you have is Stamets and Culber, and what would play funnier with a cat moment? All right.
You know what would play funnier with the cat moment? Jet.
Linus. Give it to Linus.
Well, but they gave Linus something better.
Nah, Jet would have this cat like holding hyperspanners in its mouth while she's trying to rig together a shuttlecraft or something. I don't know why I have this job, but you're making it a lot easier. Meow.
Okay.
No. Here's what I envision with Linus. It'd be like the sort of like the cat is absolutely terrified and hiding in the corner because Linus is just smiling at it, kind of thing. And it's like, no, I'm not going to eat you. Come out.
I think it would be cool if Detmer had Grudge, because Detmer's going through a lot of hard shit, and fair. So it's kind of like a companion animal.
I think Tilly is more likely to give off the cat mom vibe.
What do you mean by that, Big J? Exactly.
Well, I meant
Like, get the squint eye, so think very carefully about your answer.
Yes, I'm thinking very, very carefully here.
I'll wait.
Oh my God. I feel like just the natural nurturing propensity to take care of an animal that's a feline.
Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you.
Man,
As a cat.
my backpedaling skills are just like,
Jay, are you a rower? Because you can backpedal well. I want to touch back on Renzo's thing about Linus having the cat. That actually would have been very interesting if Linus was actually flashing around the ship on purpose, looking for the cat and going, "This isn't the science lab." And then at the very end of the episode, it shows Linus flash, and there's the cat. He's like, "Finally!" That would have paid off. Really well.
that would have been cute. Super cute. Okay, let's keep going. So Grudge and Tilly grapple while she tries to find where Michael's at, and he's a really, really cute little cat. Look at his face.
He is.
So we go back down to Hun Hao. Georgiou and Burnham, they beam down to the planet. There's this verbal sparring that goes on with this Orion. It's very well written. They go through the forge or scrap area, and Burnham is looking for Book the whole time. Georgiou's pretending that Burnham is her servant, so she's sending her off to go do these errands and
find me parts.
Yeah. Are you going to say something, Renzo?
Yeah, small thing. I just want to point out, I actually appreciate the fact that they're holding true to that stereotype that Orion males are big, hunky dudes, and that's just it. Move on from that, because that's just following through with what we knew from Enterprise. But every Orion male they've cast for this season has been a stereotype, big, burly dude.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's
it
great.
is. Yeah.
I like that they did that.
I want to also establish here that we learn Meatsack is Osira's nephew. So there's a blood relation there. And that's important when we get to the end of the episode.
Okay.
Nephew. So she's probably Georgiou's age, right?
Could
be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Or, some people have nephews that are
I don't even know if Osira is Orion, though, because it could be nephew by marriage or something, right?
I'm willing to bet that Osira is Orion simply by the name, the context surrounding the Emerald Chain. Could be Andorian, too.
Could make for a fun twist for her to be a human who has, a daughter who married into Orions or something.
Correct.
Yeah. I think it'll be cool to see, I would love to see an Orion villain, because I think we haven't really. I think we have, but nothing.
It'll be fresh.
We've never had.
And we know that Orion. There was at some point it's kind of flipped on the slave thing. The women have pheromones that they use to control the rest of the government, and it's a secret thing that's going on. So
there's an episode of Enterprise that flip what we thought of the culture, and it's the females that are actually the at the top.
Yeah,
the ones.
So I think it'd be cool to see that play out.
Yeah, we should be sad about it though, because we know that the Orions progress to the point where they no longer were largely slavers or pirates, from what Ken details us in Lower Decks. So here here we see that they've regressed back to that sort of state, and took the Andorians with them, which, the galaxy just went through the burn and calamity. So I guess it makes sense. But
it's a great lesson of the whole, if we were faced as a people with this kind of calamity, what levels of society that we have advanced from would suddenly make a huge comeback? To where would we regress?
Totally.
You're right. There would be a lot of regression if something like this happened. For example, what would you guys say would be in our day right now similar to the burn? Would it be the loss of all gasoline suddenly just combusted and cars just blew up everywhere, airplanes fell out of the sky?
If the carbon level of the atmosphere reached a point where standard combustion ignition was impossible and you weren't able to ignite your combustion engine, You'd also have to walk around with a mask because you'd have to filter that, but something like that.
Yeah, we all know that people are going to willingly wear masks if something like that happens.
Oh, bad.
So I think a good comparison would be like if there was an EMP that like passed over Earth and got rid of all of our communication and got rid of our non-combustible travel options. And so we would kind of rely on like it wouldn't kill everybody. Well, the burn killed everyone just because everything exploded. But if it would just remove a very technologically advanced thing that everyone relied on, it wouldn't necessarily like kill people.
Well, so in the United States, right, like almost every car that we drive has a computerized like fuel injection system, right? So
exactly
our cars would simply fail out, right?
Anything that was active would be inactive.
So it very significantly like leave us in the dark ages, right? Like other parts of the world, parts of the third world where they still have like pre-1970s cars that have like non-fuel injection systems, right? Those places would still have cars.
I was thinking Cuba,
yeah. Cuba's the pretty emblematic of it. So it definitely set us back.
Yeah, but I will say, listeners, we'd still find a way to give you Beyond Trek podcast.
For sure.
There's always a way.
If you can read smoke signals, we can do this.
Yes.
Life finds a way.
Yes.
Carrier. I thought those were extinct.
No, you're thinking passenger pigeons.
Thank you. Yeah, I am.
So Michael's looking for Book, and she's kind of being sneaky around the forge. We see like some of the culture there where they put these like very Matrix looking like nodes on the back of people's necks.
Exploder, like exploder.
Oh, it's head exploders.
Very Running Man.
Yeah. Oh yes. Running Man.
Okay. I didn't know that those were the cause of the pylon explosion.
Yeah. Basically, if you have this sensor on your neck and you run past the safety grid, the sensor goes explode.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So, Wally, go watch the Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you only have to sit through the first like 10 minutes of it, and you'll see a lot of parallels in that movie to the scene here with this whole thing. It'll be.
I think it's specifically an homage to Battle Royale, though. So Battle Royale is a Japanese novel that got turned into like a movie and then has become like the inspiration for a ton of genres, right? Where they had a school of middle schoolers every year that gets put on an island and only one person can survive and get off the island. They put everybody's head gets like a necklace that will blow your head off if you try and leave just the island with everybody without killing everybody else first, right? It gets brutal shit, but it was written in the 70s. It was a big inspiration for a lot of those genre type things.
Bunch of middle schoolers on an island. That Jesus Christ.
Yes. That's how they established like justice. Like that was like the foundational thing for their justice system. Like the state will rule you because if you don't, this is what we do to our kids kind of thing.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay. Damn. So the Book is helping out the people around him by like emotionally bolstering them, as there's like an Andorian that was part of this like resistance or something, and then he started working again for the chain, which just makes me think of this. The name of that makes me think of Fleetwood Mac.
So he was born into the Emerald Chain, started leading a resistance against the Emerald Chain. Osira found out, cut off his antenna, and now forces him to install these head exploding devices as a way to tell everybody here, even the freedom thinkers among you are going to betray you, so don't try it. His name is Rin. Yeah.
So one thing that we did learn from Enterprise, because this happened to Shran, is Andorian antenna do regrow. It takes 9 months, maybe a little less if you properly simulate things. So they would regrow. So in his case, they must have done something a bit more than just cut them off. They probably like burned the stump or something gross like that. Yeah.
Or they just continually cut them off like fucking assholes.
That's
you mentioned Shran, and I was totally thinking,
mind, I guess.
it would be very interesting if this person fills a Shran gap in terms of bringing the Federation back together.
Okay,
someone to bridge the Andorians back into it. Yeah,
let's put a pin in that one. I like that thought.
So there is this other human right there.
He's a Bajoran.
Mixed.
He's Bajoran. So what's his name?
I don't think we ever got a name for him, did we?
So
Dead Man Walking is his name.
He steals
Spoilers.
from the Orions. He steals a water ration. Oh, how dare you? Steals
He's
a
ill
water
too,
ration.
isn't he?
Yeah, he's clearly like in pain. He's hurting. He's probably very sick and exhausted and overworked. They basically shoot him into the pylons. Like they force him to run into the pylons, which could kill him. And they do. His head completely explodes from his body. So then we see this scene and Book is like, trying to tell him to stop. And it's the douchebag Orion nephew who's like shooting at him to kill him.
Freaking Orion Chad.
Force him to run. Yeah, he's basically a huge Chad. So we go to scene 8, which is back on Discovery. Adira and Gray are bonding in engineering, and they are just having some conversation about, I guess, what she's working on. And I don't really know exactly what it is, but Stamets comes in and dislikes how Adira is working. It's kind of like everything is everywhere.
I don't think she was criticizing Adira's work. I think he was criticizing the fact that during the revamp of their ship, they moved something. Because I don't think he was even looking at what she was doing at that point.
Oh, okay, cool. So Linus is transporting in and out everywhere. It's pretty funny.
He's getting
definitely
this really cool manicure here.
Yeah, it's like Linus is basically like the comic relief on Discovery at this point. Adira redesigned the Spore Drive interface to be nanogel and quantum
juice,
a quantum transducer or something. Yeah. So it's like this gel like that you put your hands in. It looks really cool. I just want to touch it really bad. Like I'm a very
Drive
textile.
Can now be controlled via nanogel, which acts as a quantum transducer.
Yeah, so I love like sensory textile textures, and so seeing the goo is like, yeah, I'm gonna go make some gel and just stick my hands in it.
We've got a hand raise here, real quick. Can I just say that this is kind of what I was afraid of going into this season and going so far into the future. And the thing that I was kind of worried about was just the whole, we can do anything now. We have technology that's now it's basically magic. Like anything you want to have happen, we can make it happen. And to me, I was thinking, well, if you've got a show now, you've got a season that's just got MacGuffins everywhere, how do you have a show? How do you have the conflict? I mean, what's to stop you from doing anything? And so far, they haven't really done that to where I feel like everything's just absolutely perfect and there's no problems. Of course, we have the burn, but it's just the advanced technology is that we can detach nacelles, we can change your Spore Drive interface. Suddenly we can do this and do that. I don't know. I mean, does anyone else get that feeling of like, okay, there's nothing that they can't do now? Yeah, Dag's got the hand raised now. Let's hear it.
I would like to hear your thoughts, Tech.
I have an answer, and I'm going to use a thought from the 2004 movie Incredibles. Syndrome is building advanced tech to give people powers, and he has a line in there where he says something along the lines of, I built this great technology and I'm going to sell it around the world, and when everyone's super, no one will be. And I think what's happening is Discovery is getting a level up to be on a level playing field with everybody else. We mentioned that earlier in the podcast. Now Discovery can actually compete with these people who have these quantum torpedoes. And I think, sure, it looks like magic now, but if everybody has this, then the stakes are still the same. And sure, we're going to have bad guys with more fantastic things than we've seen in Star Trek, but Discovery is not going to be this magic end all.
I like that we're all hand raising.
For this kind of thing,
I enjoy it. Yeah.
So, I yield the floor.
The thing I want to bring up on this is I think it's awesome that they have this, Big J. I think the opposite. I love the fact that they're coming up with technology so fantastical they may as well be magic, because what we'd already seen in Star Trek was already bordering it, right? Like the Genesis torpedo, that's basically magic. Replicators are basically magic. Transporters are basically magic from our perspective. But to these people, all those technologies are kind of mundane, or at least plausible, feasible. So what's the next step beyond that, right?
Yes.
And it makes sense that they show some sort of like transition or progress. Because if you look at another IP like Star Wars, you look at stuff from 10,000 years ago in the old Republic era, they've got blasters, they've got droids, they've got ships, they've got hyperdrive. Fast forward now, they've got ships, they got blasters, they got droids, they've got hyperdrives. Nothing's really fundamentally changed, right? The designs are a bit cooler, whatever. I like the fact that Star Trek in this 900-year span managed to show us that, you know, there are still some touchstones. Some things are still pretty static, but huge changes have also changed. Or huge things have also changed. There have been advancements. I like seeing that. And if that means that things have to look a little bit silly sometimes, it's never going to be as silly as the Spore Drive. So I'm good with it.
Right. And okay,
Watney has a hand raised.
This is silly.
I think that it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's just okay, you still rely on stamets. It's just a different way. He just uses his fingers instead of his forearms. Like, it's just cooler looking.
It's all I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's just cooler. It's just cooler looking. Like the nacelles, yep, still need them to go, but now they're just apart from the ship. Like it's functionally the same.
Yes.
But the plot still requires the mystery.
Well,
and there's still tasks that need to be done. And this just brings them, like, it just aesthetically makes them on par with, like, the most important thing, the most important change in my head is the upgrade in shields and the upgrade in weapons, which will have an actual physical effect on the world around them. The interface Stamets use is really negligible in my head because it still requires him. So anyway,
he's still their single point of failure. So
the thing that I was saying, and then Watney, you can get us back on track. It was not so much the Stamets thing; it was everything that we've seen leading up to that was like we have technology to solve everything. I was just worried that it would be every hurdle.
Power creep.
Right, it would be right that we have technology for every hurdle. But what Dag said made a lot of sense, referring back to The Incredibles. Is that this is technology that Starfleet doesn't only have. This is what is the standard. So when everyone is, when everyone's a super, no one is, and that was great. So everything you guys, quote. Yes, everything you guys just said here is like, okay, yeah.
Did we ease your mind?
That you did. You eased my mind. Thank you guys. That's why I like doing this with you guys, you know?
So back to the scene. I like the fact that Adira and Stamets had a little bit of bonding there where she manages to like give him something that he didn't know was possible. And we know that he hates the ports, and he tells us that, reminds us of that later. So this is a way for him to do it without the ports. And there's no residue from the cube because that would be an issue for me.
It may also be a way for Discovery to do it without Stamets.
If they figure out a way,
Well, and that was one of their objectives. Was to make sure that if Stamets died, that they had a way to power this drive.
It's a lot less invasive and like we need to plug him into the Matrix because he's fucking Neo and he's the only one that can do this. It's a lot like I'm just going to touch this and do it. So I think it is like one step closer in functionality to getting him not to be so incredibly essential to this entire plot. Like. Can't do this without him. So you cannot black alert without him.
Yeah, it should be noted that the nanogel not only moisturizes, but it provides essential nutrients to your cuticles.
Oh,
does it get rid of my calluses? Because that'd be great too.
Oh yeah, we stan a moisturized cuticle. Maybe I just do.
So while you're traveling anywhere in the galaxy through the mushroom space, your hands are going to come out on the other side feeling smooth and silky.
Oh yeah, I like it.
Get your own dash drive for $39,999.95
with a time travel device.
So I love this scene with when we go back to the planet and they start like going through some of the relics or whatever. He's got like a bucket full of comm badges, and we see Klingon comm badges, 23rd century, 24th century, I think there was a 29th century one in there too. Like they've got a bunch of badges in there, and it's really neat.
In a bowl.
It's like they recovered my cosplay box.
Right. It looks
Max
like this
is actually running this facility.
I'm Osira.
it looks like that spot in the store where it's like the free take one kind of thing.
Yeah.
At the front register.
Who's the 32nd century Macklemore talking about this thrift shop?
Probably Tilly. So we learned that like some of them are probably fakes too. Like their Orions are probably like counterfeiting some relics, or lying about where they came from, or maybe they just don't know what they're talking about. So Burnham finds Book, and they manage to sneak away and basically have a moment. Like they are so super glad to see each other. He has the black box, and does he hand it over now? No, it's in his quarters. They have to get that later.
Yeah,
so they basically make a plan here to bust them out. And he's like, you just need to take the black box and leave. I'll find my own way out. And she's like, absolutely not. We have your ship. We're going to get you out and get everybody out.
He was very surprised to see her here. Like he did not think that the Grudge like recall method was going to function this way. He didn't expect it to go this way at all.
Well, when your plan B relies on a cat being able to get your ship to anywhere, okay, Watney, what I meant was, of course, a cat can be reliable to take a ship and
just a look.
Get to Starbase. I retract the entire last statement.
You're fine.
Still, I thought it was a pretty cool scene, like showing that his character was surprised by it. Though I don't think he should be, because Burnham is like the hero. Yeah.
She's the main character.
Very resourceful.
She's coming for you. You're fine. Like you're going to be just fine. In fact, you're probably going to be the love interest, which we find out later is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. So
they don't live together. They love together. I think that was the line from before.
Interest.
Yeah, that was what Burnham said on the ship, is that I have my own ship. We don't love together. And Georgiou said, you just said we don't love together. And Burnham's like, no, I said live.
But the subtitles don't lie. And she said that. So, I think they're a good match. I think they're both like great intentioned, and they're both, she's a little more of a free spirit now, and that kind of meshes well together.
One point to make here, when they were talking about buying things from the scavenger yard, they pointed out that don't go to the scavenger yard directly, go to your local Bajoran exchange. So it sounds like Bajorans have learned from the Ferengi and have like become the commerce people of the galaxy, because if you want to buy something, you buy it from the Bajorans who bought it from the scavengers of the Emerald Chain or wherever. So that's an interesting development, because we never really saw the Bajorans as being a mercantile people. They were always religious and isolated. So
yeah, it's a super cool like political landscape kind of nugget. I like that too. And so Georgiou like is like, I hope gave you enough time. You better have gotten what you need. So they kind of do like the whole like just look at each other and download the plan thing, where they just like, yep, okay, we know what to do, even though we haven't talked about this at all. I guess that's what happens when you're a well-oiled machine. We do jump back to the Discovery. Before we move on, anyone have thoughts on this scene?
There was, so talking about the Bajorans and all of that, I think what's happening is the post-scarcity mentality in society that kind of started with Earth and spread over the hundreds of years, just the concept of we have all these resources, we're pulling together all these Federation members, we have these ships that can do things. You had all these lines of trade, commerce, communication. So your post-scarcity grew from Earth, and at its height, I'm not saying that it expanded to the entire galaxy, maybe not even the entire Alpha and Beta quadrant, but you got used to it for so many hundreds of years. Now suddenly the post-scarcity went away again. because the Federation collapsed. And I think that had a huge impact on that part of the galaxy. So now you do have people that are feeling those effects. You lost your travel and your communication. You have to get supplies. You have to have commerce. You have to now pay for things again. You have to trade. And the Bajorans don't have the luxury of just going to church every day. They have to be a part of the economic wheel that's happening. You have to get a supply, and you have to have a demand. Everyone needs that now. So I think that's why, to me, those things aren't really kind of a surprise. Like, it's sort of you would figure that would happen now, is that a lot of races had to change the way they operate and how they do things, because now you can't get anything for free anymore. Even if you're in the core of the Federation, which hardly exists now, you've got to have money. You've got to have, we're back to money and currency again, kind of like in, if you ever play any of the Fallout games, the bottle caps become the currency. So it's like that. You have a regression, and you have to have the basic needs, and it's some form of compensation or money, whatever form that is, for trade.
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to say was I really like the way Michelle Yeoh has been acting in these entire scenes down on the planet, where she's calling Michael servant. Like, it's very demeaning, and it's overacted, but it's perfect for the situation. It kind of reminds me of Patrick Stewart playing the French villain in Picard. It's overacted. It's overacted on purpose, right? Because these characters are not actors, even if the actors who play the characters playing a character are, which is good. I like it.
You know what both of those scenes help me understand is that facial recognition technology was banned in the Federation a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Because everybody should have been like, dude, that's Picard. Like,
I know, right?
I've got his Tops, 2376 Tops collection right here. It's got everybody on the Enterprise D. It's fine.
Your serious Tops collection. That's hilarious.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Bajorans here, though, because I'm thinking, like, was the burn part of the Prophet's plan, or what's the plan for Bajor now?
Don't even get me started.
We don't even need to talk about that now. But it popped into my head when you said the Bajorans couldn't go to church anymore, and I'm like, man, what are the Prophets doing?
Kai Wynn did the burn. Okay. No, I know who's cause of the burn is George Bush.
No, it's Gul Dukat at Taco Bell.
Watney, please get us back on track, because we're falling. The wheels are popping off.
Discovery, where Tilly is kicking ass at delegating. Saru decides he wants to speak with her. And they come to the conclusion together that neither of them know where Burnham's at, but they probably know what she went to do. Well, Tilly doesn't know what her plan was, but Saru does. And so they kind of say, not happy about her leaving. Neither of them are, but Tilly doesn't want the whole crew to be painted with the same brush and ruin their chances at the Federation, the existing Federation as it is. And so she's like, you need to turn her into the Admiral. And Saru is like, I was not expecting you to say that, but fine, I'll tattletale. I said, Tilly's gonna Tilly tail.
Well, I really don't think it's a matter of narking on Burnham, because unfortunately, Tilly is right. Saru does not have an option. If Vance finds out and he doesn't find out from Saru, then they're all screwed. So it's either, do I want to screw over the entire crew, or this person that defied orders when I knew that was probably going to happen anyway. And we'll find out later. I think that's the big reason why he's so upset at her, because it's kind of a like, damn it, you have put me in this situation that I didn't want to be in, to make this choice that shouldn't have had to be made. And so that's his burden. You can kind of tell by looking at him, just his mannerisms and attitude. It very much comes off as a he knows what's going to have to happen,
Mhm.
and he's ticked that it would have to be that way, that he can't not report it, because if he doesn't, then they can forget about any goodwill, what little bit of goodwill they were able to build with Admiral Vance.
Yeah, it's a sticky situation
Yep.
for Saru. But I think like Burnham totally went in knowing that there's going to be consequences for this, but she did it anyway. And I think Saru like can trust her, honestly. Like she would never hurt anybody on purpose. Like she would make sure everyone was safe. She would never put anyone at risk. But when it comes to authority now, she's like, fuck you. I'm going to go do what I need to.
Lawful good Vulcan-esque to being chaotic good, right? Like
yes.
more the rules to get
Great
the good thing
description.
done.
Yes, that's exactly what's happened. So, so they don't look happy. They have a moment. I like the interaction between them. So then we cut back to Hun Hao. The plan is underway. There's some like, fighting that happens. They managed
a droid following them.
Yeah, they managed to get the perimeter controls. So they have that in their pocket for when everyone's ready to like escape. Everyone's just kind of like looking at each other seriously, like, it's it. This is it. Let's go.
God, this is so much. The Running Man. Like, I'm going to watch that today. This is, we got so many parallels to it.
There is the black box. What is that made of? What is the most
Neutronium.
Deutronium? Neutronium. You think that's what it's made of?
No, because remember, they talked about having neutronium alloys in the hulls, right? Like that was one of the things. So maybe neutronium is not the hardest thing anymore.
It was neutronium fibers. And just because you have it doesn't mean that it's not the strongest thing.
Fair, yes.
The planet killer was made out of solid neutronium.
Right.
The reason that I say neutronium is because, for those of you listening, neutronium is actually real. It is conceived to be matter where, if you're familiar with chemistry, you've got your protons and your neutrons, and then your electrons are way out in BF Egypt, and they orbit your nucleus. It's said that if your nucleus of an atom was the size of an orange, that the nearest electron shell would be at the radius of the Earth away. So they're conceived comparatively very far apart. Neutronium is this idea where matter is packed so densely that the electron shells have collapsed and are orbiting next to the proton, or the nucleuses of the atoms are huddling next to each other with the electrons scrambling around in very tiny channels. And that's how dense it is, to use that analogy.
Is it real?
Yes. So it happens in the cores of neutron stars. Here's the problem, though. It's under such great pressure and so dense. It's so dense that a teaspoon of it probably weighs more than the moon.
Yes. Neutron stars, that's a thing. You're right. If you were to, a teaspoon,
I'm looking it up just to make sure. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but it's something ridiculous like that.
It is. I think it's definitely something ridiculous. But like, if you had a spoonful of neutron star matter, the density, the gravity pull of it is basically you're going to suck the Earth in right there. Like it is serious.
So it's theoretical. We know that it probably exists in certain circumstances. It's basically like unobtainium.
Sure.
Kind of. Yeah.
And
which is the most uncreative word for a. They use it in like the core. There's another an Avatar. Yeah. So it's like, as soon as that is, it's such a lazy writing.
It's a sci-fi concept that came up in the 50s to describe metals that were so obnoxiously precious and destructible, rare,
and
expensive.
Costly. Yes, in the core, they're even like, what would it cost to get this done? And he's like, $50 billion. And he's like, do you take checks? Because it's the government.
I think the goalpost that's being moved here is saying that whatever the black boxes are made of has to be completely indestructible. It doesn't. It just needs to be able to withstand an antimatter detonation. And so the black boxes could absolutely be made out of neutronium, because we know that, we did an antimatter spread on the Borg cube, and that didn't destroy the Borg cube. So
Just to point out, though, both of the black boxes that we've seen so far, because we've seen them both of them came from Starfleet ships.
Mm-hmm.
Both had NCC registries to them,
Right.
so that's something to remember.
They're engineered to like survive that exact thing happening that happened. So it just has to be engineered correctly.
But it also gives us a survivor bias, right? Like if she's only able to find black boxes from Starfleet ships because they're the only ones that built them tough enough to survive what happened in the burn,
Well,
right, then you're getting a very small subset of the ships that were blown up by it.
She's also committing the whatever the bias is, where she's only looking for Starfleet black boxes.
Confirmation bias.
That's fair.
Right.
We don't. Yeah, that could certainly be it. I looked it up.
I just wanted to throw something real quick that I just thought of, because it's kind of the same with airplanes and recovering the black box. With the burn, we're talking about the dilithium went inert. And so suddenly you were not able to regulate the matter-antimatter reaction. And that results in an explosion. So we're talking about explosions, detonations. We're not talking about vaporization. So even in the matter-antimatter explosion, it's pretty well all-encompassing. There's not going to be much debris, but there will be some debris because you're still talking about an outward, from inside to outward explosion. So this may not even have to be made out of neutronium. It could be, it may be that it just needs to be strong enough and it's small enough that when you have that explosion, it's going to be instantly, kicked out, go flying into space with the rest of the debris. So, that's just my thought. That's my thought, and that's why even if the airplanes they explode in the air because their matter-antimatter reaction, but it's the gasoline, whatever. You can have a complete explosion of a plane in midair, still have the black box, and it's not made out of neutronium or anything.
It doesn't have to be. It just has to be tough enough to survive the blast. And the impact of landing. You're completely right.
That's it. Which
the planes should be made out of black box material.
That may be too heavy to fly, and you know it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so they get the perimeter controls. Reese is worried about escape. Like he's like totally freaked out about this chain, and rightfully so. I mean, they're subjugating everyone. So we go up to the start.
Hold on. Got to raise my hand. Just real quick.
Okay.
Did anyone think at this moment that that he double crossed Georgiou and Burnham, because he told Michael that the black box was in his quarters, but yet he's got it?
No, the Andorian guy with the cut off antennas, Rin, went and got it for him.
But why would he tell?
Quarters down here.
But he told Michael that it was in his quarters, so he sent her off to go get something that wasn't there, that was already either in his possession or the Andorians.
They were not going off to get the black box. They were going off to get parts to create a control method for the perimeter pylons.
Did I totally miss that? Okay, maybe
it wasn't very clear. I'll be totally honest. Like, I'm with you. It was kind of like, okay, here, this is happening, whatever. Like, the writing was not like super tense.
Because right then I remember thinking, why in the hell would he double cross them? Like, he had no reason to use Michael and Georgiou as a distraction for this escape. And that's what the writing of the plot left me with. And apparently I have to watch it again, because that was my immediate thought when he had the thing in his hand. I was thinking, well, why would he do that? Why did he use them as the distraction? That's kind of a backstabbing kind of thing. But then later on, when they were still cool and there was like no discussion or whatever, then I was like, okay, now I'm more confused, because it looks like he double crossed them, but they're not acting that way whatsoever. So, okay. I'm
pretty sure it was literally just a matter of everybody had different tasks, and Rin can move around their base pretty much uncontested. So they sent him to Book's quarters, grab the thing, come back. Whereas Georgiou is getting parts for this or distracting Tolor, and Burnham is getting parts for the thing. And everybody's got a task, right? And they just sent Rin to do the easy one.
Okay. All right. I'll just have to rewatch it. Okay. Moving forward. Sorry.
Okay. It's all good. So they start the plan. We hop up to the starbase where Saru tells the admiral what happened, and the admiral kind of brushes it off, not like, how dare Burnham. Has bigger things on his mind, like he has other problems. So this is like negligible. Like, you need to get this under control. It's your number one. And he wants them to jump to the Emerald Chain issue on Argeth or something to solve whatever problem is there, but I don't think they ever actually do that. He wants them to prep to go to Black Alert.
It's prepping. Yeah. Because things are, they've pulled away from the negotiating table. Whatever's happening is breaking down. And
diplomacy is failing us.
Yes, diplomacy is failing, and it's looking more likely that Discovery is going to have to arrive at the scene. So he basically just tells them, go get prepped. You're probably about to get called in.
Yeah. So then we hop back to Hanha, where the douchebag Orion finds the dilithium in their ship. He actually hits Georgiou in the face for like being rude to him.
And boy, does he know that to her, that's foreplay. He is opening a can of whoop ass that he doesn't want.
Yeah. I mean, like, we know that it's not, we're like, but Georgiou's like, target acquired.
Georgiou is totally.
I think I am going to take your eyeballs and put them on my belt. So I kind of like his outfit. That's cool looking. It's like, that's their little badge.
Yeah.
He's got to have Justin Bieber on repeat, though.
The hair.
The belt of
2009.
Orion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
think about that. It's not straight enough, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, Georgiou and them all fight, and Book and the slaves get out of where they're at. It's kind of like a chaotic scene. So
look at those guys flying.
Yeah. So they're on their way out, and they need to get the perimeter controls down, but there's like a fight that goes on the bridge of Book's ship with Burnham and Georgiou, and she has flashbacks and actually becomes catatonic and falls down. Reese gets shot in the escape attempt back on the planet. Burnham and Georgiou pilot the ship kind of badass style. Well, Georgiou wakes up and finally gets her shit together and takes down the perimeter pylon so that they can run away. The Book ship comes in through the buildings. It's super cool how they did this. There's like a firefight going on, and then the ship like comes through the buildings out of the mist, and it's like really cool how they did that.
And it just shoots down all the guards that it can find, like a gunship. Really badass scene. Though I'm a little surprised, honestly, why they didn't just use the ship to blow up the perimeter gate from the outside. Like,
maybe that would either
trigger all of the head things, maybe,
or take too long, or you're right. Good point.
My suspicion is that, yeah, they'd have to take down the gate itself. They couldn't just beam everybody onto the ship, because the proximity sensors in their neck would say, "You're not in the right place. Explode."
Yeah. There's probably still some kind of proximity issue. I don't know, but
they have to like power the system down. So they kind of like
when the ship was flying through, I got a very Millennium Falcon vibe. Out of this ship.
I did too, and it's like it was very Millennium Falcon. I just rewatched the most recent trilogy the other day, so very, very dope scene that it like shifts around and stuff. Like, it's a very cool.
Yeah, the Transformer scene. It was ridiculous. Like, this is a Transformer.
Yeah, very, 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 very advanced ship. So Georgiou takes down the old Federation ships too. They basically like nuke the whole place, and then they transport everyone off the facility. Reese is very hurt, but he gets treated, and they rush back to Discovery with Book on board in the black box, and all of these old Federation ships are crashing into the planet. So,
and Rin got shot.
Yeah, and Dorian guy got shot.
Yeah.
And we get some good interaction between Georgiou and Burnham, who's finding like, okay, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah,
what is going on?
And like Burnham's like, hey, it'll be okay. We'll get through it together. Like, I've got your back. And Georgiou's not having it because I think that she believes her, but she's unable to admit like, okay, I have your back too.
Yeah,
like, I believe you. She has her wall up. It's super obvious, but it's like her last recourse before like putting her walls down.
The line from Burnham about how like showing weakness in this universe doesn't mean death was really good.
It was, yes.
What I'm loving about this is in season 1, Georgiou is introduced as completely invulnerable, untouchable, and will kill you for blinking the wrong way at the wrong time. In season 2, she gets to be this nigh unstoppable super fighter for Section 31. And season 3 is doing a really good job of, if I can coin a term, tyrannize her. You know, she's moving away from this indomitable force to she is putting her guard down a little more. She's in a place where she doesn't have to constantly be on her guard, worried about people assassinating her, worried about any kind of insurrection activity that could pose a threat or damage her reputation. So I think the show is allowing her to be more human and not as terrible.
That when they showed Filippo Georgiou, or when they planned Filippo Georgiou in the first episode for, Battle of the Binary Stars or whatever, that they planned that they were going to bring her back as a Mirror Universe character and then rehumanize her for us? Like, do you think that was all on somebody's arc somewhere in some plan? Because honestly, if we would have stuck with the original Georgiou character, the original Philippa from the Prime Universe, we could have seen a lot of very interesting slight differences for this stuff. But I don't think it would have been all that different overall.
Unfortunately, I am just going to have to go back and say that first half of season 1 was such an unmitigated disaster. And I think the showrunner and the writers were just doing so much coke that it's nothing was planned. It was just
definitely a stretch.
Right. Unfortunately, I cannot give them the credit to say that was planned. The whole thing with
but first seasons in Trek are never amazing, so it's fine.
Lower Decks
is great. Broke the tradition, certainly. So
I think the new showrunner is influencing Discovery season 3 in ways that the old showrunners couldn't do.
Yes,
which I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yep. So Georgiou is very prideful of her image. She's concerned about people knowing, and she's like, you're not going to tell anybody about this. She throws the whole trust thing in Burnham's face with Burnham's mirror self also betrayed her. So yeah, but she looks fantastic as always. She's like going through trauma, but she's like so stylish. We love it. So we jump to the Discovery's mess hall. Adira is talking to herself. Stamets kind of notices and goes to sit with her. They have a moment. He brings up something that we talked about in the last episode, or the most recent Adira focused episode, where Stamets says, as far as I remember, you're supposed to carry his memories, not his soul.
Yes.
And so that is a big mystery, because it could just be because Adira is human, and that's how humans would deal with a Trill symbiont in them. It could be any number of things. We could, I'm sure, speculate all day long about it. But Stamets basically says, like, before, I also loved somebody that died but wasn't really dead, and now I have them again. And I've learned life and death are not a linear thing with a distinct beginning and end. Stamets then says hi to Gray, and Gray says Adira needs to make some friends, and that Stamets he's a pretty good mentor. So I think it's interesting. Like, I've watched interviews with people who are schizophrenic, and oftentimes the interviewer asks them, well, is there a hallucination in the room right now? And the person who has schizophrenia is like, there is, but and then the interviewer will ask them, well, where are they? And they're hesitant to show where that person is, or where that hallucination is, because then you have real life interacting with a hallucination, which can be very, very dangerous when we think about mental health. And so the scene where like Stamets says hi to Adira's boyfriend, who is not really there but is in her head, it kind of like gave me some weird vibes that he did that. Like, I know that it's Star Trek and that Trill are, you know, this is how it is. This is real. And this is not like a mental disorder or anything. But it did give me some weird vibes.
Now,
I had a totally different approach to it. I was thinking of it from like a gay mentorship aspect, right? Like you've got somebody who's just dealt with a serious trauma, someone who just like is realizing that they've lost the love of their life and has somehow reconnected to them. Then you've got a mentor who's already experienced something very similar. They lost Culber, they got Culber back, right?
Yeah.
So there's a mentorship aspect that you don't often see in pop culture. So like one LGBT person being a mentor to another it's good and wholesome. I thought that scene was delightful, basically.
I did love the scene itself, and then the follow-up later in Hugh and Stamets' quarters was really great to learn more about why he felt drawn to that interaction. But just like the mentioning of like saying hello to somebody that he could not see, it just reminded me of some. No,
it just shows us how we focus on different things in the scenes.
Yeah, for sure.
Real quick, because I took a lot of psychology in college, almost minored in it, but can you tell me why is it if a schizophrenic is asked, is there a hallucination in the room right now? Let's say I'm schizophrenic and I see clear as day the person, whoever it is, and then a real person, the interviewer, asked me, is there a hallucination in the room right now? As a schizophrenic, you're saying it would be bad for me to say right here, like this person, the person sitting or standing right here. And if you're saying that, why? I'm just curious, why would you?
Well, because a lot of the times when schizophrenic people have hallucinations, the hallucinations will tell them to do very harmful things to themselves and potentially other people. Mm-hmm. It's more often that it's like being basically ordered to like harm yourself. Okay. And so when you give more reality and more weight to a hallucination like that, it can make it seem more real and like more impactful and more like, oh, well, then I should listen to it, instead of being able to say, this is just a hallucination, I shouldn't listen to it. Then you have a person standing in front of you who is real flesh and blood, interacting with something that's in your head that's telling you to do something bad to yourself. So it's kind of like you don't even want to link that triangle up, because then it's actually there's someone who's interacting with a hallucination, or it just gives it more power, basically.
You don't want to give it validation and recognition.
Recognition. You want to basically continue the course of thought that this is not something you should act on, and letting somebody else act on that is also, it would reinforce that.
I would also,
again, these are just interviews I've watched out of curiosity and a desire to learn more about what these people go through.
Well, but you're talking about the hallucination and the malevolency behind that, whereas Adira, it's obvious that her boyfriend is not like that. So, and I totally get what you're saying, that you're right. But I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but when it's safely established that the hallucination I'm talking to, the person I'm talking to, because she said it's my boyfriend. I think right then and there, and especially with how she says her character and demeanor, you can pick up right away that, well, obviously this is a very benevolent person. So if Stamets is well trained enough in the psychology or schizophrenia to know the difference between, okay, don't acknowledge if this is a malevolent hallucination, but because that's not, it's okay.
I wouldn't necessarily think that Stamets is educated at a PhD or Starfleet Medical Academy level about Trill. Additionally, a human being a human Trill, human host. I'm sorry. So like, I don't think he necessarily has the ability to determine that. But yeah, and so we do know, like, we see at one point where Adira is in engineering, and Gray is like kind of urging her to go and make some friends. So we know that there can exist conflict within the relationship of the Trill soul within them. And also Adira doesn't really tell anyone about it except for Stamets. So we don't really know like how this is going to play out. The whole uncertainty about the situation is, I guess, why it kind of like the flag went up. That it was interesting that he chose to interact with someone he couldn't see that was basically existing in someone else's head.
Okay.
Be interested in knowing if our listeners or viewers have any, training or thoughts on that as well.
Yeah,
I have a degree in behavioral science, and I don't even want to touch this concept because I don't know anything.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I just thought it was like an interest. It just reminded me of those interviews I had seen, because I had never even thought that would be an issue. And so it was kind of stuck in my head as like, yeah, I should definitely respect that they don't want to like talk and acknowledge their hallucinations in front of me. So
I definitely agree that the writers hopefully will express some kind of sympathy to people who do struggle with schizophrenia, or even DID, if that's relevant here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and I did love that Adira is like, hey, I'm getting all this knowledge from all these other Starfleet officers that I have in me now. So let me just apply that to you. And so she's like drawn to him too. And I think it's a really cool mentorship for sure. So then we cut over to sickbay, where Burnham is really worried about Reese. She's back on the ship. She's back in uniform. Her and Book talk, and he's like, well, time to face, the music here for your choices. Mm-hmm. And he's like, thank you for saving my life. And they're about to kiss. Linus teleports in to interrupt that, but then they kiss anyway. So kind of a cute scene.
It's in the turbo lift. The Linus thing was one of my favorites in this episode. He just kept popping everywhere. People, made Stamets jump one time. It was a gag. It was a great gag. Yeah, because you would have to think that if you have a personal transporter like that and you're playing with it, that's exactly what would happen. You would be messing around with it, and you would just end up in wherever. And I'm glad they did that. So that was just real quick.
It was written to be comic-y, but like imagine Linus popping in on this conversation with like Hugh and Stamets like that. Like they definitely used it in a way that was like, yep, this is the writers doing this.
One thing I want to point out in this scene, I said it in the last scene, the tricorders are branded with the Delta. In this scene, the pajamas are branded with a Delta.
Oh, yes.
I love Starfleet. I have my own, but can we please stop branding everything with a Delta?
Disagree. If it's standard issue, I want it branded. And these are standard issue because they always wear the same ones.
Standard issue pajamas?
Yeah.
I'm going to make a Delta branding iron, and I'm just going to go visit Renzo and be like, and it's going to be a Home Alone moment. You're going to have a Delta on your face.
Do it on the forehead. Right on the forehead.
I'm thinking of getting a tattoo. May as well be that.
Get a Delta cut into your beard.
Just some scarification. It's all good.
Something to consider.
Or shape your beard.
Not all of us are Georgiou.
Okay. Shape your beard into a Delta. Do that.
It's harder. You could dye it. Could dye a certain part as a Delta.
You could bleach the front.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Only when you're ready to shave.
Yeah. But no, so for the scene, right? I really liked the fact that Hugh and Paul have their relationship has recovered to the point where they're sharing these sorts of things. Because there were definitely some points in the last season where there were concerns about they're going to try and make it work, but will they or won't they? And now we're seeing that it's definitely starting to work for them. They've recovered. It's also nice that they talk about Adira, about how bonding with her over a similar form of loss is important for them. And I feel like Hugh's probably going to reach out to Adira about it too, because, Hugh does have medical training. Hugh does have psychological training. So he may be able to better understand what she is going through and may be able to help her better. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm actually really interested in that whole subplot.
For sure. And he's kind of
about Trill.
What was that?
Oh, sorry. I said they're just getting to know about Trill physiology too. So this is a new.
Oh yeah, because
manifestation
they
for them.
skipped over DS9. They skipped all that shit.
Right. Yeah, we're at a point where not nearly as much is known about the Trill because they were in.
Oh, then why does Stamets say from what I know about Trill? Like,
well, they might have read something about it like during their briefings for the previous episode or 2 episodes
3
ago.
weeks.
that's true. And I think like Hugh is acting counselor at this point.
Probably. Yeah.
So,
Ship
but he's doing a
desperately
great
needs a real
job.
one.
I know. Really.
Okay, so then we get to the last scene where it's back to the starbase with Vance.
Yeah. So we think Saru's like Saru gets it. So Vance gives it to Saru, he gives it to Burnham. They're like both getting in trouble. Vance is pissed at Saru because if you had told me about Burnham's request, I might have granted it worth the risk, but you didn't tell me about that. You instead just circumvented that. And I think Saru is eager to be like the goody two shoes. And so he doesn't want to even suggest things because he doesn't want to come off like Burnham.
There were a couple.
He's a yes man, basically.
There were a couple people in the wrong, and Saru was not prepared for that possibility that you made as Admiral, I'm Admiral Vance, you made my decision for me that I wouldn't think that this intel or this mission would be valuable. Instead of coming to me with it to let me decide, you decided for me because it may very well have been a crucial thing. So he kind of, stripped down Saru a little bit about that. Now Saru's going to think, okay, he just took a lashing. And of course, with Burnham, she knew it was coming. And that because lives were saved, that is a reason why she's not being thrown in the brig. And I think that, in my opinion, on a ship, and I may change my mind about this later, but I think that you do need to have someone like this. You need to have a Michael Burnham because, or a Jim Kirk. There's going to be that time where you have to take the rules and stretch them, or you have to accomplish a thing and the parameters of rules and regulations wouldn't allow you to do it, but it has to be done anyway. Because if you have an entire ship full of people that would never break orders, I know they say that that's what you want. That's how it's supposed to be. But if Michael had followed orders, what would have happened? What would have happened here? And she's right. They're not going to be able to rebuild the Federation. If I don't know what the cause of the burn was, I'm not going to put myself in a position where it can happen again. Not until I know what did it. And she's right. There's not going to be a reforming of the Federation when there's just this unknown and this mistrust of just not knowing what would happen. But anyway, yes, I think that it is beneficial that you do have someone that's going to stick their neck out. It reminds me of the TNG episode where Dr. Crusher had to perform an autopsy on that Ferengi dude that got killed, and autopsies were like completely expressly forbidden by the Ferengis, and she did it anyway, even though no, she could
Rhaegar?
lose lose her career and everything. So when she came to see Picard, and said, I basically violated every order I was given and did the autopsy. So he asked her, what did you find? And I think it was like that moment that was, we may be able to salvage this if you found something that was completely proved this or exonerated this, that would not ever have happened without doing that. Now, granted, right at the time, it would not, she found nothing, but as we know, it eventually was all made right. So I think that once you've gone this route, once you've disobeyed that order, then you better hope to God that you come out with either having saved lives or did something very significant, because if not, then that's even worse, in my opinion.
I'm going to have an unpopular opinion on this one, but I think that I think Burnham actually won over Vance on this one. I think that she's actually impressing him. I don't think he's going to express that or show that, but I think he's actually impressed by what she's achieving, because he left it in Saru's care how to deal with her, right? I don't think he trusts Saru yet. I think he's built more of a trust towards Burnham than he has towards Saru, because Saru lied to him. Saru didn't tell him that this was all going on, right? And
well, it wasn't a lie. It was
a lie by omission.
Well, he told him that he went up to him and was like, hey, my first officer did this.
But didn't tell him that the request had been made, right? Like he pointed out, like, if you told me about this, I would have probably said yes, or I might have said yes. He didn't piss off Saru on this one.
He didn't report the request. He reported suddenly that my first officer has left against orders. And so then later, it's when Vance says, okay, well, Saru, first, you were wrong because you made the decision about that for me instead of bringing it to me. So right. Yeah, there was.
So the only thing I'm trying to get to, though, is I think, though, that one, yeah, dropping Burnham from being XO is a good call, A, but B, like, I think that Burnham is going to be earning the trust of the Admiralty, like, by doing things like this, because, you know, it's things that they would want done even if they can't order it themselves, right? And I also quite like the fact that Burnham was able to succeed in what she went off to do, right? Like, you know how we have Mariner in Lower Decks who does these things that are against orders, but she does them. She gets them done, and they're things that need to be done. In a similar way, Burnham is achieving things here that need to be done. So as long as she keeps succeeding, they'll probably keep letting her get away with it until she doesn't. Which is what we've seen with Star Trek in the past, right? Like, Worf broke orders a couple times. He got reprimanded once or twice for it, but he broke things. We see Paris break orders and get demoted, but he still did it. He still does it again after that, right? Like, characters do these things for the right reasons. So most of their
Picard broke orders, not often, but everybody breaks orders. So far, except Saru. And I think
Saru is just very inexperienced as a captain, right? Like, that's the limitation here.
Well, you've got to know when to break orders and be so right that you're going to have a positive outcome, because once you've broken that order, unless you deliver results, then your ass is grass. So you need to have reached that point where you know that the only way this result is going to happen is to break that order. And you're right. Someone is going to look at it as, yes, this is what needed to be done. We can't order it to be done. In fact, we have to order it to not be done, but we know this needs to be done. And someone has to do it that we can have, that we can disavow if it goes south. It's kind of like in Mission Impossible. If you're captured, we don't know who you are, know nothing about you. Peace out. Same here. It's if you get caught, if you screw up, then we never heard of you, never saw you. It's the plausible deniability if things go wrong. And I really think, especially given the circumstances that they're all in now, that I think Vance is benefiting from and knows he will benefit from someone like this that came from the cowboy era of Starfleet, because we're talking about the basically the whole 23rd century was the cowboy era of Starfleet. Things didn't settle down until we got into the 24th. And so he's going to be seeing that, okay, there's something to get here by someone who doesn't just follow strict bureaucracy. That's my opinion.
There was something I didn't notice in the episode until, well, literally like 10 minutes ago. They actually have a map of relative space or near space on one of the walls there. And it's actually a neat thing to include in the background, just because maps are something that you'd expect are going to happen to be seen at Starfleet Command. So they actually included that and have updates to it and have changes to it that make sense for, a post-burn kind of situation.
Yeah, I think Saru is like, he's trying to, he's not really like a control kind of guy. When I say control, I don't mean like scary AI. I mean, like, he's not one, he's a servant captain. He's not a, like, I'm going to order you captain. He's like, he tried to convince like Burnham, like, hey, it's not a good idea. We need to be on call. And she was like, okay, sure. And then she went and did her own thing. He didn't get like irate with her or any kind of authoritative thing like that when she got back. But I think he knows that she slips through his grasp, and that's kind of going to be how it is. And she's unapologetic about everything that she did. And she says she's sorry, but she's sorry for the circumstances. Like, I felt like I needed to do this. You felt like you needed to do this. And this is just how it is. We are these two people. We have different alignment. And, I like that I could see Burnham going more into like the intelligence aspect of the new Starfleet.
I can too. And I really think at some point here, and it's going to come with experience, I believe, that Saru is going to have to lighten up. And that's just all there is to it. He's going to have to stop being a tight ass and lighten up, because there is a possibility that the way he does things, he's going to get people killed. If you're following the book by the book, basically, to me, if Boimler from Lower Decks were to be a captain, this is exactly who Captain Boimler would be.
Savik from Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
By the book, Admiral.
Yes, Savik from Wrath of Khan. And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, Saru has gone through 2 years of an arc where he was betrayed by Michael, and then spent another season learning kind of how to re-trust Michael. And in that time also, he is embracing 23rd century Federation, essentially doctrine. As somebody who escaped a planet where he was a predator, or where he was prey, he's really embraced Federation and Starfleet specifically ideals. And so just when he gets the opportunity to rise to the challenge of being a captain with those ideals, he gets thrust into a new era of Wild West Federation, where nothing is what he recognizes, and he's still in that 23rd century ideal kind of mindset. And he's going to have to learn what this 32nd century is all about.
And don't forget, he went through Vahar during this whole thing too, right? Which totally changes how his hormones motivate his personality. He goes from being like a prey species to now being kind of a bit more threatening with the spiky things. He's gone through a lot of challenges, a lot of changes, and like he's got to learn how to deal with things again.
Right. And you know what I just thought of? That do we even know, or is it safe to assume that he probably did not go through the command training course at the academy? I mean, that's because you have officers that go through.
EXO on Discovery. If you're EXO, you have to have had it.
You think?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he absolutely did.
Remember, they had the bridge officers qualification test. That's what they were all talking about. Like, and then we see that Deanna Troi couldn't serve as like the person in charge of the bridge until after she had passed that.
Right.
Well, we saw EXO Saru in charge of the Discovery Bridge all the time, so I'm sure he did, and that's assuming that the rules are kind of similar.
You have to remember that it's a period of months between the first and second episodes of Discovery, where she does the mutiny and the Battle of the Binary Stars happens, and then she gets tried for mutiny, so she's going to be in the brig for a while. The trial's going to take a while, and during all of that time, there's crew reassignments. Detmer's getting her new headpiece. Saru was taking command training to gear up for his EXO slot on Discovery. So all of that's happening between, like, I guess it's the second and third episode of Discovery. So
do you think he took that? Do you think he took the Kobayashi Maroon?
I'm sure he did that in the academy.
Had a Kobayashi Maru at the time.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
No, because Jim Kirk's out of the academy at this point, right? And we know that Jim Kirk did it in the academy.
Right, but Jim Kirk's a cadet here, and Saru's a commander.
Sure. I don't know. I feel like Jim Kirk wouldn't have been like the first one to take the Kobayashi.
Could it have been new? I mean, could it have been new, like his senior year ish?
Well, if we take the Kelvin verse as sort of a mirror for this, Spock is the one who helped program the Kobayashi Maru in the 2250s.
Yes.
And Saru would have been out of the academy at least in the late 2240s in order to be a commander now.
Yes. Okay. Right. So basically, the chances of there even being such a thing as the Kobayashi Maru, maybe not, or if it would have been newer-ish at the time. And I'm sure at Starfleet Academy, there's like, okay, we have this thing, we have this scenario, we're going to test it on our students. We're not going to immediately start calling in XOs and captains that are out on missions to take this. So yeah, the odds of him having done that are slim. Let's just assume that he did not. So
I don't see any reason to assume that the Kobayashi Maru was new either. That seems like something that they would have been training for decades at that point. I don't sign up to that. Like, let's assume it's new thing. I think that they all would have taken it. Like, learning to lose is something important that a lot of training things teach you even now.
Mm-hmm. Right. I get you. And you're right. There is no canon to establish when it was created, nor any that can refute us saying that we could put it in the 2250s and you're not proven right, nor are you contradicted, unfortunately. So it's like, so far we can kind of, say whenever we want that it was done. But the point I'm making is, to me, he doesn't come off as someone who went through that. He doesn't come off to me as someone that went through the command training, because when he took over as took command of Discovery after Lorca's disappearance, you remember when Saru went into the ready room and was looking up all the past captains and getting all the info. I think that it was oh shit, I'm going to be a captain now, and I have to learn how to do that. Yep. That was me. That was kind of my final thinking on that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting and every captain's going to be different. So, and that's the beauty of it. So Saru is like just adjusting. Everyone's still adjusting. I think he gets caught up in policy a lot.
Yep.
So once he learns to be less of a yes man, then I think we'll start to see some maybe a little more alignment with Burnham. Mm-hmm. It's the Wild West all over again, is what it is.
It is.
So yeah, the final scene is Saru walking away from Burnham, and he personal transports out of there. He demotes her back to just chief science officer. And honestly, like, I got a lot of relief in this scene. Personally, I felt like it was for the best. And I think it's okay to like not be aligned, but I think she still has everyone's best interest at heart. So we'll have to see what happens next episode. So
real quick, before you tell everyone where they can find us, et cetera, I want to get your guys' opinions on this image right here. Now, the new comm badges, they also light up accordingly to your rank. So the rank pips are now handled on your comm badge, and they light up. Okay, so I want to get your guys' opinions on her having taken off her comm badge here. What does that mean? She's
not a commander anymore.
But you don't have to. The comm badge lights up based on your rank, and I don't think he demoted her from being commander. She's still commander, but she's not a commander.
I think it was a moment of reflection, like holding it in her hand, like, what does this really mean to me? What are my values? I didn't think it was her like demoting
I like that a lot better. I like that so much better.
Because in the past, that's always been a sign of handing in your badge and your gun, or like before you're going to do something you're not supposed to do, you take off your comm badge and put it on the table.
I think it's the equivalent of like just getting like, I think it's the equivalent of sipping on wine to get the taste and then spitting it out.
Yeah, I love that idea, Watney. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just she's just reflecting on what it means. I agree. That's great.
Yeah.
This wasn't her signifying that, okay, I'm about to do some more shit I'm not supposed to do. Okay.
I think
it's her like finally coming to the terms with the fact that she's grieving maybe the loss of a previous life where she wouldn't have done that. You know,
which may flow directly into the next episode, which is called Unification 3. And I'm not going to spoil anything in the trailers, but if you've followed TNG at all, you had Unification 1 and 2, which was all about Spock, who's critical to Burnham's backstory, trying to bring together the Romulans and the Vulcans, which was critical to Spock's current and future story.
Yep.
It's what led to him sacrificing himself to try and save Romulus during the Nova. And I think in the next episode, Burnham may get some cathartic closure when we meet the people who are featured in the next episode.
Okay.
Yeah, we will certainly see. And if you have watched the preview, hit us up on Twitter, and let me just tell you where you can find us before I get into all that. So if you want to support us online, patreon.com/beyondtrek is where you can do that. We would love and appreciate any support there. We have some pretty fun tiers, so check us out. You can talk to us at twitter.com/beyondtrekpod. Dag kind of runs that account. And then we have an Instagram at Beyond Trek Podcast. We also have Facebook, facebook.com/Beyond Trek Productions. And I want to give a super special thank out, as always, to Stephanie Baker and Jim Cook, who are Patreon and Anchor donators. Thank you so much. And also John from Cygnus-X1.net, who provides the stills that we use in our YouTube for this video.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie and Jim and John, for the stuff that you're doing for us. It's great. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone that's listened to us and watched us.
Yeah. Thanks for going boldly with Beyond Trek. We'll see you next time.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.